Well, Kroos just said that Real Madrid's situation is unacceptable. Let's talk about the German who could return to the club, and we might find out this week. Also about Mourinho and even Cesc Fabregas, who, when asked if Madrid is a red line for him, says it's not. All right, let's get started. This is what Kroos said on the podcast with his brother.
Thank you.
Okay. Schon,
Ist nicht akzeptabel.
Well, it's in German. Please read the subtitles. He asked for a second season without titles. He says that's unacceptable. One season is tough enough, so he thinks two is unacceptable.
It's already really hard to let that slide. Two are not acceptable, period. So that's the self-image of Real, and everyone knows that.
The team itself is not bad, but for that we need a good coach.
That's always how it is, the right one in every way.
But now we're not going to find anything. But you don't know, do you?
His brother asks him if he knows any inside information about the coach.
Nee.
Not that one. Maybe he knows something. Kroos, I insist, this week or next, Kroos' return to Real Madrid might be made official. We'll see in what capacity. Kroos is not coming just to... I heard something funny about him being a ceremonial figurehead. No, Kroos would want to come to work, to have a position at Madrid with real authority.
What? Here and there in the flow of the... No.
But I'm not in the loop.
Well, he's not into all the behind-the-scenes gossip. The brother, of course, asks him, hey, Kroos will say to his brother, I'm here with you on your podcast. Hey, he spent years with his brother on the podcast. All this so you don't make me reveal things I shouldn't. But it also shows the other one tries to get him to talk, right? I think he obviously does this podcast as a favor to his brother. But it's interesting because Don Antonio usually says things here. He tends to say things because he says things that the other one would always say when he speaks. And the phrase is a strong headline. It's unacceptable. If a season without winning anything is already difficult, imagine two. It's unacceptable, period. It would be great if he came back. It would be great if he came back, Tony, because I also imagine him in a sporting director role. The other day, we mentioned in a video that both he and Benzema were leaving. Florentino wants to surround himself with people who give him good advice. The thing is, we also thought that with Xavi, things would go really well. And look how it turned out in the end, right? And many times we think that when someone arrives at Madrid, we say, look how well things are going to go with this guy. And then look what happens. Mbappe, for example, as the team's striker and top scorer. Sure, he scores goals, but the rest doesn't work. Which he's part of, by the way. By the way, Mbappe would be ready to play. On Thursday at the Bernabeu, watch out. And Carvajal is back. Carvajal might also be ready. He's the one you don't care about. Oviedo has been relegated. Madrid is the way it is. And maybe in these last 3 games, they might just drift through them. The news is about Thursday's match, the booze, and the crowd's reaction, of course. Well, that's what Toni Kroos said, but wait, because he said more things. Hold on, because that's what we have there on video. But he talks about the unacceptable reality. Real Madrid points to its player of the future. Sorry, it's player for the future. He says he'll be important. Who will it be? Well, before seeing who it is, who he was referring to, I knew he was going to talk about him because he has already done it on other occasions. He says the players had the motivation, this Barça Day thing, to win the Clásico, but that wasn't enough. The defeat was decided before the match even started. It's just that we were all clear about it. I had never felt so little hope. Honestly, I was glad when the Clásico was over. It's just really tough, man. And besides what we've already heard, he talks about, indeed, Arda Güler as the player of the future for Real Madrid. Arda Güler is a player for the future. He has played a lot this year and will be very important for Real Madrid. His best role is as a number 10 near the goal with a great final pass, so he should stay close to the forwards and wingers. He is not an offensive player, so he loses potential in the center. Still, he says he is not an offensive player, so he loses potential in the center. Even though he can create play from the back, I would have said he's an offensive player because otherwise the rest of the sentence doesn't make sense. But, well, it's true that from the back, he says, even though he can create play from the back because of the way he has to play, because of his style of play, About the Turk, sorry, I'm a bit tongue-tied today. He likes to get a lot of touches, has a lot of good judgment, knows how to turn very well, and so on. Yes, but it's like Tony says, the closer he is to the forwards for that final pass. And we've seen it, damn, with Mbappe and so many others. And we've seen it. Another advantage of Güler is that he has already gained an extra year of experience. I think this coming year, and not to mention the ones after, are going to be Guller's years, where he'll really step up and take charge. He needs to change his personality a little bit. He seems like a really good kid to me. You don't have to be a jerk or a bad person to become strong in your job and your career, even though that's what we've always been taught, right? And besides, I know several people like that. Do you really have to be a jerk and a bad person? It's not a requirement. There are people who have made it that way, right? But if you already have talent, all you need is to not let people walk all over you just to have personality, to have character. And by realizing that there will be a lot of people who want to walk all over you because they don't have enough talent and they want to do it in other ways, just knowing that and not letting them walk all over you because of that is enough. I think Güler has what it takes. The kid has shown it, but he needs to toughen up. He needs to get stronger. A guy who I think was like that at the time because he always seemed kind of shy and a bit of a nice guy, but then on the field he toughened up is Cesc Fabregas. I know there can be a division of opinions among people when it comes to Cesc Fabregas. Let's see, Cesc is a Barcelona fan, although the other day I heard Collins, I think it was Collins, who said, no, but he's more of an Arsenal fan. Yes, but he's a Barcelona fan. And when we talked at some point about the possibility, which to me is very remote, absolutely remote, that Cesc could coach Real Madrid, because to me, he's a great coach. Let's take the Barcelona fan thing out of it, okay? He's a great coach. I always said, yeah, but just imagine if you ask this guy at a press conference, do you think Negreira was decisive for Barca's league titles? What do you think? Just with what he would say, since we know he would say no, or maybe he would just stay quiet or something, it's something that really clashes, man, with the Madrid fans. It's really tough. But if we separate that from the purely professional side, someone like Cesc, I mean, from what I've seen at Como and how far he's taken Como, and from what you can see, he knows about football and how he motivates his players. Recently, we saw footage of Cesc with his players at Como. How did they seem to view him? How, no pun intended, were they looking at that man? With a mix of authority, of respect for him, of respecting the hierarchy, but also of admiration. And he had them totally convinced. That was amazing. It was a tremendous image. I don't know if you saw it. I haven't found it now. Sorry. I'll try to look for it later. But yes, you can see it. It's clear. But of course, what would happen? Well, he's like Xavi Alonso. He's another Xavi Alonso. Now, I think he handles winning over the players better than Xavi did, I think. You can see it. If you ask in the Leverkusen locker room, they'll say, no, Xavi won us over, of course. That's why you'd have to see a Cesc Fabregas at Real Madrid to know if they'd look at him with the same admiration as the Como players did, you know? It's just that 2 plus 2 in football isn't always 4. Anyway, last night, Juanma Castaño asked him on El Partidazo if coaching Madrid is a red line. Is there any red line?
I mean, for example, Madrid. If Madrid called you one day, could you be Madrid's coach?
No, I think the red line, for example, and this is something I've been very clear about from the beginning.
So, it's not a red line to coach Madrid. Otherwise, I would have said yes. Come on, don't get me into that. Of course, coaching Madrid is a red line. By the way, Luis Enrique also said it once, half joking, half serious. More joking, I think. He told an interviewer, he said, can you imagine? That's just like Luis Enrique sticking his jaw out. There's a Chilean impersonator who did it really well this week. Can you imagine being the first to play for Real Madrid and Barcelona and then coach them? And when he laughed, when Luis Enrique laughed, he almost fell backward off the stool he was sitting on, right? But he also didn't say no. It's much harder to picture Luis Enrique in that role. Many people would say no. No, Cesc, who is a bit more likable, also being a Barcelona fan. Well, look, again, he doesn't say no to that. Whoever wants to close that topic does it right away, but he doesn't. And then he goes back to his red line, which has nothing to do with the fact of coaching Real Madrid, which is this one.
First, I wouldn't want to be an assistant, for example. That's something that I think wouldn't really have much value for me either. I don't think that's the right context for me. Yeah, one thing I'm sure of is that I want to be a head coach and build from there. The other thing is that I haven't even thought about it, I haven't considered it, and I haven't had time for anything.
Okay. Well, he wouldn't want to be an assistant because what he wants is to run the show there, which also says a lot about his personality and his ambition. I didn't watch the whole interview. I didn't listen to El Partidazo de Copa yesterday, but apparently he said this when asked about Vinicius and Xabi Alonso. He says you must be ready to make good decisions. And most importantly, to be a better coach and have a strong team, you must prioritize the group. No one is better than the group and no one is above it. Above the group anyway, as it should be. If you keep the group united and strong, then whoever wants to leave can go wherever they want, but you will always have the respect of the group and things will go better in the long run. Correct, Fabregas. But the one who's going to come to Madrid seems to be Mourinho. I think it was Cañizares from ABC who was telling the story. I think it was him. He was saying that it's the only one, that no other option has been considered at Madrid. That he's plan A and there's practically no plan B or plan C. That he's the coach who will be at Madrid if everything works out in the end. By the way, Cesc was coached by Mourinho and Cesc has at Chelsea. And Cesc has a great opinion of Mou. He said that for him, he's one of the best coaches he's ever had. And I'm sure he learned a lot from him. I want to highlight this tweet from Eloy Lacina. He's always great, like everything he posts. Like everything he says, basically, I'm a big fan of Eloy. He says, very soon. We saw this in the video I made last night, which I imagine some of you have also seen this morning. Look, I didn't show this. This thing from Anti Madeira, I don't like it either. Neither the phrase on that shirt nor this. I don't like it. Now, at the Real Madrid celebration, do you remember? In the latest one, the Champions League and league title celebration, I don't think there was any reference from the crowd. Yes, the fans, yes, but did you see any Real Madrid player with an anti-Barcelona scarf or wearing shirts like this, anything like that? Right? We didn't see that. There are no references, as I said in the last video. Well, I would like the Real Madrid squad to hate these guys as much as they hate us, especially because of that mirror effect and because of what this club has done. Cheaters, paying a refereeing chief for more than 20 years, their president, the one who quadrupled the payments. He's still in the position along with 3 other presidents. For registering players after the deadline with fake money and so on. Let that also be another reason to despise these people who have played by different rules and with their decks stacked for so long. And on top of that, they're the ones who hate us the most. It's unbelievable. Well, that's explained in the previous video, like I said, but they're also laying the groundwork so that if Mourinho comes, he gets the response he deserves. But you'll see how the press is going to start saying, no, the one who came with that hostility was Mourinho. That's what they're going to tell us when Mourinho arrives. They're going to tell us that when actually it's the other way around. This happened before Mou even got here. They'll say, what about the Real Madrid television videos? Of course, we're not just going to stay quiet. When it was you who have been documented paying a head referee for more than 2 decades. What if it had been the other way around? It's crazy, and even worse, there's no punishment. Have they faced any consequences? They were relegated to Primera RFF. They've already come back and all that. They already paid, which would certainly be insufficient, but they already paid. Okay, no, they haven't paid. They haven't paid, but anyway. And now we're done with Mourinho. Asked after the match against Braga about Benfica, is it tough for Benfica to get into the Champions League? I think they drew. They couldn't get past a draw, and their last match will be against Estoril. They were asking Mourinho about Madrid.
Good evening, Coach. Diego Plaza from El Chiringuito in Spain. Does what happens on Sunday, whether Benfica goes to the Champions League or not, influence your decision to stay at Benfica or go to Real Madrid?
No. You're talking about Real Madrid. I'm not talking about Real Madrid. I'm talking about Benfica. The work we've done. For me, it's not going to change whether we finish second or finish third. There's no way it'll influence my future. It has no influence.
Doesn't it rule Madrid out at all? The issue is very clear. And now he's going to say, by the way, I didn't know that in Portugal, the third place doesn't go to the Champions League and has to play a qualifier. I understand, but well, I haven't checked that. But of course, that's a big punishment. Benfica, which hasn't lost this year, hasn't lost a single match this year, has drawn many, of course, and could end up third. In fact, I think it depends on Sporting CP. Here's what he said about when he'll discuss his future.
And from the moment we enter this final phase,
I'll try to translate for you. I think it'll be easier. He says, starting Monday, he'll discuss his future, the season, and the decisive matches.
an important thing, sorry for the club, I decided that I didn't want to hear from anyone.
That I wanted to be isolated in my workspace.
And then,
Like I said a couple of weeks ago, I built it on Saturday. And I think that starting Monday, I'll be able to respond to this indirectly. That's not the other question. If that's what it will be, my future, that's not it. The other question is what my future as a coach will be. And it's important that my future, the future of Benfica, well, they'll play against Estoril, the last match of the Portuguese league. From that moment on, he'll talk, we hope. When he said no, it's that I haven't talked to anyone from Real Madrid, man. His agent has talked, of course. But the thing is, he had to say that. I haven't talked. I haven't had any contact with anyone from Madrid. The situation will be decided this week or the next, and maybe it will be made public starting from the following one. Well, Mourinho is coming, my friends, with everything that implies. I don't know if we realize what we're talking about. Mourinho to Madrid again. Awesome, great. Hope everything goes well for you. Give a like if you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel, comment, and share. See you in the next one. Bye.